and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another session of Focus on Liberia on the Marketplace, where we talk everything finance, business, and economics. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. I hope your Christmas Eve is going well. Wherever you are, there's a Arctic blast across the country right now, so everybody is on a freezing right now. So wherever you are, if you have your cup of coffee in your hand or you have your pepper soup, please take an hour and a half and join us as we discuss the economics of Christmas in Liberia. And I am your co-host, Gabriel Carter, and I have Alex and Larry in the studio with me to talk about that today. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so nice to be here. Let me say hello to everyone who's watching. It's the Marketplace's year-end show. Let me say hi to Linda. I see placing a comment on the chat, so want to say welcome. I'll be here for a little bit with the guys, and let's talk to see what we can possibly do. Maybe, discuss what's been going on this entire year. How can we make Liberia better? That's why we're here. Over to you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you. Gabriel. Thank you, Larry, for showing up. And again, we're discussing Christmas, and it's some of us had to cancel our Christmas festivities because of the active blast and in a different part of the country, and so yes, I even wrote I was listening to CNN, and one of the panelists was just making a passing comment that he thinks they should cancel Christmas, and so I lifted that on my Facebook page that Christmas in America is canceled. So it's like because my Christmas is canceled.
Yeah,
because my activity was surrounding my travel, and once I canceled my travel, it was like okay, and that money that I was supposed to spend at that on that travel, I rather converted it and say okay, let other people enjoy it in Liberia. Let me send it to some people in Liberia. So I sent push on that to Liberia.
Yeah. So that's what did you use to send it? Because I think Sendwave was down the entire day yesterday. I don't know if it was up today. I didn't try it today. So
I usually use. In fact, I use what we call World Remit.
World Remit. Okay, I've never used that.
One of the set of money I had sent a bounce back because the person didn't have that. The pricing limit was low. So the person had to go to Lone Star to kind of increase their limit.
Yeah,
because that's more money we send into Liberia, man.
Yeah. No, Christmas time is very, very, very busy time. I know Sandway was down the entire yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't used Western Union or MoneyGram in probably over 2 years or so. So I don't know how those are going. But
I haven't used it, in a bit.
But I'll check out World Remit. No, thank you. I didn't know they actually operate in Liberia, but thank you for saying.
Yes, they do. They do. So they because what I did was okay. I have too many people to send money to. So instead of sending little bits and pieces of money, I just put everything together. I send it to one trusted person, and the person gets So I pay one fee, right? You know what I'm saying?
I hope I was that person. I'll be cutting for everybody.
No. I mean, all these years I've been sending money. It hasn't happened to me. Nobody has,
Yeah, I know.
All these years, more than 20 years, I've been sending money to Liberia.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened to me. No.
I know.
Yeah.
Larry.
I mean, wouldn't it be easy if we had a sort of a transnational bank where you can just go put your money over here in the US, the person walk over to the bank in Liberia and just withdraw the money? It's so much easier. You don't have to worry about that stuff. But Unfortunately, those days of the Chase Manhattan Bank that used to be on Broad Street or in Monrovia, those days are long gone. And why is it that the banking system in Liberia is so weak, so weak, and you cannot develop your country without having a strong banking system? But yet, we see that some of the banks are not properly capitalized, meaning they don't have enough money in the bank to cover everybody who could potentially run to the bank and try to withdraw their money. So after 100 and something years, Liberia took a gamble, I would call it, by bringing into play someone who they said had heart for the country. But we know having heart for the country is not an economic development plan, right? So I think we need to kind of look at things a little bit differently if we want to change the dynamics, if we want to change the way how the country developed, because there's so many people down there not really celebrating Christmas. If you saw the Focus on Liberia video, it was interesting watching how everybody approached an intersection in this day and age. You don't have traffic lights, you don't have traffic officers. People approach an intersection and all try to inch their way through.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like a video game, But that's what we see today happening in Liberia. So the question is, why is Liberia poor? Why is Liberia poor? What are some of the big issues that happened this year that make you kind of take a step back and say, why is this place poor? It shouldn't be this way.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be this way. So let's talk about it a little bit. And let's talk about some of the things that's been happening over this week. The president taking his time out to lambast his opponent as opposed to taking the time out to talk about some of his agenda that's coming up. And what is it that the opposition is doing? They seem so timid at times. They don't seem to have a good strategy, lack of a better word. So I guess the president is only strong based on what the opposition is doing, because I think a strong opposition would force the president to be a little bit more careful in terms of what he's saying. So, you got your word remit, you got your boss revolution, you got all of those money transfer systems, which is good. You can always have a backup plan, but I would prefer to just go to a bank, drop money in there, let the family over on the other side walk in and grab that money right out.
Yeah, I think we still have they do have a wire. You can wire money, but I think it's expensive. That's one thing.
Very expensive. It's not cost efficient. By the end of the year, you see how much money you have spent with the wire.
Yeah. So I think I know there's $35. I think right now it's either $40 to send money, right? Wire. And then when it gets there, they also charge you, I think, another either 50 or 70 bucks. So whereas the same amount you can send it via SendWave for anything up to I think 500, it's $6, and then over that I think it goes up to $8 or $10. So it's a lot cheaper to do it through the mobile money system than do it via banks. But I think those things are still there, but people are just, unless you have like a huge quantum of money that you send in to build a house, then I'll say wire is the best way to do it, where they just goes in that, because I think these systems actually have limit how much you can send for a day, on it during a day. So
Gabriel, you're right. I mean, wire is expensive as compared to mobile money transfer or the Western Union or MoneyGram. And talking about banks, Sam Wallow here is making some comments about. So I just wanted to try a job on his comment there. That he says MoneyGram works, and as well as Western Union works, but based on that comment, this is a situation that I face in sending money. So I had sent money to Ghana, and the person in Ghana preferred that I send the money by Western Union or MoneyGram because it's easy, and then I paid no fee. I paid no fee to send that money. I was surprised when I sent the money. Good bit of money, so I didn't pay a fee. But when I came to Liberia, I said, okay, let me send the money by MoneyGram or Western Union. The question was, the argument was, oh no, the bank will be packed, and maybe the different situation that's surrounding the banking system. So the person preferred I send the by mobile money. In fact, I have not used MoneyGram or Western Union for a while now, like you. I have not used it. It was all mobile money.
Yeah.
Over the past year plus. So today, and because I sent the money to Ghana, I said, okay, let me try. I'll pay no fee. And true, I mean, if you send it to Liberia, you pay no fee. But the person was like, oh no, they may not have the money in the bank, or the bank will be parked, or the combination of both. So just send the money by MoneyGram. So I mean, by mobile money. So again, it's not that the money is not in the bank, but if the bank is crowded and the person needs the money for Christmas and the person cannot afford to go come back. So again, when you compare two areas, it's easier to send it to one country. The person can go to the bank. The only difference I saw there was in Ghana was that they were a little bit rigid with the requirement, subject to money laundering requirement. So you had to bring your passport, you have to bring this. The person even forgot their passport, they had to go back for their passport. There was no cutting corners business, right?
Yeah.
So again, that is the situation. So
all right. So we have next week we're doing the year in review. What we're going to look at the entire year, right? But today I think we talk. What is it? The economics of Christmas in Liberia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So before we jump into that, I and this is something I think that's impacting over 200 million people here right now. The weather, right? There's almost every state is under a weather alert, freezing. Where I am is 16 degrees. There's 200 million. That is over a third of the U.S. population. How are things on your end?
I'm in Texas, so like I said, Texas, it was just a wind, from Thursday evening.
All right.
It was just serious wind blowing. At time, it appeared as though it was some kind of flurries, but I think it was the moisture from the ground, and it kind of mixed with some dirt and stuff. But it was blowing, and to the extent that certain part of northern Texas, between Texas and Oklahoma, Texoma, it was reported that there's thousands of people are without electricity because the wind blew some of the electric poles,
line.
the lines and stuff like that. So, but then surprisingly, the weather dropped from, we were doing 40 degrees, 50 degrees, but it dropped to 10 degrees by yesterday. Thursday was 21 degrees. Overnight, it went to 13 degrees. Then yesterday morning, it went to 10 degrees, which was cold. And of course, people in Texas, they were surprised you, man. They would wear all their glove, like the construction glove, or they would wear all their PPE jacket, fur jacket, and all those jackets as if to say they're going to the North Pole or something. Whereas people in Minnesota and Chicago,
right, that's
just like
nothing.
that. I'm like, okay. But the wind was tough. But right now it's quieted down. We around, in my area, we're around 30 degrees. But again, it just took the Christmas away. It just took the festive. And this is a one in a lifetime thing that happened in America. And to the extent that President Biden even spoke to the nation, cautioning people. As soon as he spoke, as my man, I went and canceled my trip. Yes, the flight left. But I went and I was going to Minnesota, but then people in Minnesota said, "But what are you coming for? Everybody in your house, the whole activity is just, so whatever I want to spend in Minnesota, that's some of the economics, because I was going to spend money there. So I ain't spending that money.
No, you're right. There's 200 million people. The country, I think we're about 300 million people, or 360, 300. But there is 200 million people that are impacted. So the fact that the president spoke about it, that tells you the magnitude of what's happening here. But
flight cancellations, about over 2,000 flight cancellations. And people stranded at the airport. People can't go. So families had to move to families to celebrate. And everything else was, just went to rain from Denver, Colorado, through the mid of the country, to Minnesota, to Ohio, to your area. And then yesterday was tough in Ohio. And then, but Chicago was the epicenter. Chicago was the epicenter
Windy City.
for this
Yep.
whole activity, and it
All right.
just so
That's perfect. Let's. I know that's. I wanted to get that out of the way because that's something that's happening here. But I don't know if Larry, you want to add to that? Um,
Not a whole lot, not a whole lot, but just say
all
happy
right.
birthday
Happy
to my
birthday
man.
to my mom. That
this
is my
is.
mother right there, and that is Depuzwo,
Oh,
one of our
okay.
hosts here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's my mother. She's 83 years old
Yeah.
today. Her birthday is today. She
Oh,
shared a
happy
birthday with
birthday. What's
Depuzwo.
her
Oh,
name?
nice.
Elizabeth. You call her Ma Elizabeth. Her name is Elizabeth. Her crew name is
No,
Nyanati.
no, what is it? Yanati?
Nyanati, yes, stand up.
Oh, yeah. That's my
Yeah,
little brother's middle name.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's
Happy birthday to my Elizabeth. I know
Happy
she probably in
birthday.
Liberia, right?
yeah, she's in Liberia.
Yeah.
She's
And I think today is also Depu's birthday.
our man
Depu,
Depu.
we're hoping that you're going to join us, but wherever you are, happy birthday. If you're here, just take a shot for me, for us. If you're in Liberia, just cut a pound one glass and say toast to the people that focus on Liberia. And then send us the bill when you finish.
Oh, but thanks, guys. That was I
Yeah,
didn't expect that at all, but that was
yeah,
good.
that was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, let's get into the meat on the bones. And this is the topic of the day, the economics of Christmas in Liberia. First, I would push this on you guys. I don't know how much time you guys spend Christmas in Liberia, but what I remember, Christmas in Liberia it's kind of like the equivalent of Thanksgiving here, where the cook feast, people gather around. Some of us can save up money to buy Christmas clothes and wear that one clothes that day for the entire and dress up that entire day. You will not take out that clothes until the Christmas over, and then after that, you save it, you put it away again for Christmas. So
Now you
those
talking slow, so
those are the memory that I remember of that. Those are the memory that I have of Christmas in Liberia. And my mom or my grandmother would get up like 5 o'clock in the morning. They start cooking. Sometimes a full second get you up. So that's how you know that that's how big Christmas was in Liberia, at least for us. And I think for most people that is the same. Over here, that is the equivalent of Thanksgiving, where people gather, family come around, and but from what we've been hearing for the last 5 years, and I think I wish we could have played this song of this kid who said during Charles Taylor time they used to eat 3 times. Now Arlington, they used to eat 2 times. Now, during this current administration, they only eat 1 time. So that tells you the deterioration of the excitement in the economy, and that would just paint a perfect picture of what is happening in Liberia right now, especially during this Christmas season, where there is a lot of challenges in this country. So, over to both of you. Any of you can go first. What are your memories of Christmas in Liberia, or from people that you talk to in Liberia over the year?
okay, I can go. I mean, Christmas was an exciting time when I was growing up as a kid. Like you said, our parents would buy us clothes. I mean, we wear the latest shoes in town. Everybody was buying. I remember one time it was Tracker, that high heel shoes that Prince Nico used to wear in the late 70s.
Yeah.
I was a kid then, and then we'll wake up in the morning to a bright day. If your parents didn't buy you clothes, they didn't buy you some goodies for the Christmas, there is you will look bad because everybody had to, go to Waterside and buy something for their children to wear. And then we will wake up in the morning, in the afternoon, dress up and go from uncle to empty house, eat some food, and then collect some money. The main reason why we went there was to collect something for the Christmas. We collect that money, and some of my aunties and uncles will be having a big party. I had an uncle who was living in town, and we end up to that place. All right, but we'll go from uncle to uncle, collect money, and well dressed up, and then after we come back, to our terrain, then we start buying our high power and those kind of stuff, and start catching our hay. Yeah, we're kids, but it was a memorable time. But then as we grew up as adult, I was in Liberia up to 2019. It was a it was a sight. Even as adult, it was a exciting time. Every time Christmas came, I spent some time in Ghana. Let me add that one. And Ghana is a Commonwealth country, so they do their own on the 26th, which is Boxing Day. So that's when they exchange gifts and go the same way Thanksgiving is looking on this side as you described. It's the same way, but that time is more of exchanging gifts and having parties and things like that. While we do it on the Christmas Day, they do it on the 26th. The Commonwealth country of England, Canada, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, or the South Africa, those kind of countries, they do that. But in Liberia, the economics, the economic about the whole thing is that people will bring goods to sell, because those are high selling time. Those are high season for business people to make money, because that's when people buy a lot, because everybody has to buy clothes, people have to buy drinks, people have to buy food, and the chicken will be rolling, all the chicken will be in trouble on Christmas around Christmas time. So you can imagine the merchandise that are sold, the exchange, and the economic, the ripple effect of taxes being collected to infuse into the economy. So of late, it's just been dropping from year to year. All right. Over the last number of years, it's been dropping from year to year. So, and that's characterized by the song that you're referring to, even though we can't play it here because of the N word that has been mentioned there. Like this whole twin chats at the time, we were eating 3 times a day, and my early time we're eating 2 times a day, and now we're eating 1 time a day. It's I like I shared experience with you so I go to the supermarket. I was working with GMAP through the US government. So in Liberia now, you got to spray your hand, you got to give, right? So I get there this time. Now the whole US government work is over, and I transition now into working for the government. And then I get there, the guys will say, "Oh, LA's coffee." The Zogos now, I mean, if I may refer to them for lack of a better description. LA's coffee, the man we're working with USAID, Sigura One, the man used to give us US dollars. Right now, the man working with my LA, working with government, now he giving us LD. like now you see the trend has gone down. Like you used to give Liberian, you used to give US dollar, now you're giving Liberian dollar because you're now working with the government. So it characterized that kind of trend that that's because when you listen to the video you're talking about, the Focus on Liberia interview with market people in Ray Light and Douala and other places, and then also when you read the Front Page Africa story, is that like what I gathered from there was there's more people in the market are selling,
but there's not enough buyers.
More people selling than people buying, which is characteristic of country going through economic hardship. All right, where everybody has to sell something because there's no job or there's no other source of income, so everybody got to sell something, and they expect people to buy these things. They go to the middle people to buy it and bring it to the market and sell it for a little profit, so that they can be able to turn that around and eat something from in it too, and feed their family and send their kids to school. But if people are not buying, and then it creates a problem, which is the tune that we're getting from the Focus on Liberia interview, and then the Front Page Africa story that it's not all rosy because money is not available, so people are not buying. It's not about the prices of goods, but it's the availability of funds. Now, if you compare that with America, yes, the inflation is high, prices of goods have gone up, but at least we're getting some money to be able to buy the food. I know that what I used to buy in America when I go to Walmart or when I go to the grocery shopping store, what I used to pay for $50, I'm paying almost $100 or so for it. But at least some way, somehow, something is coming in that I'm able to say, okay, I was buying 2 of this, now I will buy 1. Right. I would, because salary is not going up as much as the prices are going up due to inflation. But at least the money is coming every week, is coming every 2 weeks as I take pay, and I'm able to plan around that. But in our country, it's the other way around, and especially second part of other countries as well. So it's tough.
Imagine if you're living in a neighborhood where, let's say, there's 10 houses, and Christmas has come, and you have invited your friends. You have a lot of food. Food is wasting. You have a lot of liquor, drinks. Everything is wasting. And then you look around you, and there's 9 other families that have nothing to eat. Will you feel good about yourself?
Absolutely.
This is the situation. You see, the poverty in Liberia is a major problem why a lot of people do not celebrate. When we look at Christmas in Liberia right now, we're looking mainly at Monrovia. The poverty in Liberia is really out in the rural areas. If you are celebrating Christmas at that level where your people, and this is one thing that I hear a lot of Muslims sometimes talk about, says sometimes they don't feel comfortable going to sleep at night when their brothers and sisters are not sleeping, on an empty stomach. In Liberia, according to the World Food Program, 83% of the people live on less than $2 a day. 83%. So that comes down to maybe 2 out of about 10 people. You run into, let's flip it around. 2 out of 10 people are enjoying. 8 out of that 10 is living on less than $2 a day. It makes it impossible for them to meet basic food necessities. So you have food insecurity in Liberia. If you are enjoying so much around Christmas time, which is what the president, does all the time. He's flying a Falcon jet at a cost of $4,550 an hour. One of those Dassault Falcon jets that he flies around with is $4,550 an hour. It costs millions and millions of dollars to fly in a private jet year over year. So the problem is the poverty in Liberia, the lack of employment is one of the underlying reasons why you have poverty in Liberia. Food insecurity, another reason why you have poverty in Liberia. So when you have people, your neighbors around you, who are living on less than $2 a day, cannot eat, and you are enjoying yourself and celebrating, it shows you don't have something called empathy.
Yes.
Empathy, walking a mile in the shoes of the person.
Somebody else. Yeah.
Somebody else. Yeah. So, the celebration in Liberia today is worse now than it has ever been for the mere fact that a lot of people are going on less than $2 a day because there's very high unemployment. There's very high, the agriculture sector is not producing at the level it needs to produce. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So it makes Christmas not the same like it used to be back then. It's not the same. It's sad. And I don't think the president has any empathy because the president brags about the price he pays for the sneakers he's wearing, the shoes he's wearing. He's flying a private jet. They're taking selfies on private jets. How do you live in one of the poorest countries? You rank about 176 out of 185 countries or so, or 179 out of 185 countries. You are very poor, and your president is flying a private jet at a cost of $4,550 per hour. The president of Mexico, that has a much bigger economy, he flies commercial. He's flying commercial. Ellen used to fly commercial. So how is it that this president has the country at heart when he is living his best life on the backs of the poor people? So I don't think there's a whole lot to celebrate. All of the festivities you see, like what Alex said, the Christmas is usually the time that for economic growth. Meaning people will spend a lot of money comes to the economy, but when you're spending money, that money, there's a downstream effect because that money starts to go back to the market women who are then going to buy more goods, who's going to go back to the people who are planting in the farm. And it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle, an economic cycle that leads to economic growth. Not going to happen simply because there's just not a lot of money in the country that goes around. So people who, the small 1 to 2% of the people who are really balling and enjoying in Liberia, They are doing so on the backs of the many poor people. And these are the same underlying issues that led to the civil crisis in Liberia. When you go to peacebuilding.com, they did a survey on what led to some of the crisis in Liberia.
Mm.
It was inequality.
Yeah.
It was inequality. It was corruption. It was tribalism. It's all those things that led to some of the conflict we had in Liberia. And those same issues currently exist in Liberia. Why? Because there's poor leadership.
Even
You know?
higher than they used to be right now. Than they were when the war started.
And it's so sad because the level of corruption in the country right now has gone to such a level that Liberia has been clearly identified and cited by the Global Magnitsky Act. Several people cited by the Global Magnitsky Act for sanctions because the level of corruption, it is endemic, and the entire government is being labeled as a kleptocracy, a government that comes in place just to steal. It's a major issue.
No, I'm glad, and thank to you and Alex for mentioning that. Well, I think there's something you also mentioned too that caught my attention that maybe we can expand on it a little bit, and then we jump back here, which is the food insecurity, right? In the country, we have food insecurity right now. People can't even, buy food to even celebrate Christmas. People like there is when you hear abject poverty, it is in Liberia. But you mentioned one thing, well, two things, which is the food insecurity and also the lack of leadership on this administration part. Um, I wanted to put this out there. So there's resources out there, right? In terms of if we do want to develop our country to say we want to get to a place of food, where we have sufficient food to feed ourselves. There's resources out there. One of the things also, addition to that, one of the things that impact us as well is climate change, right? Where people don't know when they should plant, how much rain is going to fall, and all of that. I think I mentioned it in one of the chat that we're in. The IMF, they just from the COP27 that just happened, they have launched a $650 billion to help countries that want to transition to fight climate change. One, but the second most important thing that's key to what you mentioned is they also have another fund for 60 billion to help countries that want to become self-sufficient that have food insecurities, right? So let's say Liberia, as we have it, that where we can't feed ourselves, where we go to Guinea to buy most of our stuff. That's an opportunity there, right? Because if we were being impacted by climate change, we can apply to that fund. They built a Melinda Gates. They have another 1.5 billion for small stake farmers, small holders, farmers, right? That can apply for that to help them be, self-efficient into their food production. So those resources are out there. Besides the grandiose things that the president puts out, flying private jets and stuff, if he was really focusing on bettering the image of this country and helping Liberia feed itself, the resources out there that he can look into to really help this country feed itself. And these are things that were balls that we keep dropping that got us to where we are today, where we have a Christmas where people literally, like we said, even though we said Christmas canceled here, Christmas canceled in Liberia, technically. Nobody's celebrating Christmas. Nobody's celebrating Christmas. People used to cook, hang out at people. If you talk, I'm sure you guys have like people in Liberia you talk to. Like you talk to anybody you talk to, whether it's a friend or family or not. That's the one thing they keep telling you. The country is hard. That's the word you keep hearing. It's hard. So that.
Gabriel, let me just make 2 points quick. Sorry to interrupt you, buddy. And before I swing over to Alex, so I'll make 2 points real quick in terms of what you just mentioned with the foreign aid and all that stuff. But to the comment by Sam Wolo in terms of the poverty in Liberia pre-war, he's absolutely correct. And I don't even argue with you, Sam. That's why when new governments come in, they come in on the train of change. They're meant to come in and change all of those bad policies. That's why it was so crazy that when Doe came in after the coup d'etat and was asked, and the video is out there, when he was asked what is it that he was going to do differently, he said he was going to do the same thing that the previous government was doing. So it makes people wonder, why did he come in with a coup d'etat, right? The same thing. This government came in flying high on the wings of change. But then every time you criticize them or you make suggestions to them on why they're doing the same thing that Ellen did, or why they're doing certain things a certain way, they say, oh, because Ellen did it. So people talk about how they're going to come in and make all these changes, but things just seem to remain the same. The more they talk about change, the more it tends to remain the same. So Sam, I'm not going to even argue with you because you're absolutely correct. The issue is not just this administration's issue in terms of the poverty around Christmas in a rural area. People tend to forget about the rural area. A lot of the poverty in Liberia is out in the rural area. The second point, Gabriel, is I'm not a big believer on foreign aid, especially when I hear how Liberia is such a beggar nation. They keep traveling all the time to beg for aid. Because I have done so much studying on foreign aid. I did my entire research on aid going to Liberia. I was going to do something on like the random walk on Wall Street and all this kind of financial thing, but I wanted to understand a little bit more about foreign aid and why it hasn't changed Liberia. And then, when you read what the economist, I think she worked at Goldman Sachs, Dambisa Moyo, right? Dambisa Moyo, right? What she called dead aid, why aid don't work. And she made very good arguments in terms of that. And even I've read books by economists from the IMF and the World Bank. And when you kind of think about it, aid tends to make people lazy. Mm-hmm. Because even as Ebola was coming through Guinea over in Foya down in Lofa, and when Madame Sirleaf was told that, hey, we have this thing, Ebola, that is coming in, she was on one of her foreign trips. She didn't make a move. And then as the thing started getting worse, everybody just kind of took a backseat, just waiting for aid. We tend not to take actions because we want things to get worse, things to exacerbate, just so we can get aid. And then when the aid comes in, it ends up being stolen. Mm-hmm. It ends up being stolen. So the problem is we shouldn't rely on aid. So I'm glad Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation putting some of that money out there. But foreign aid tends to make people lazy.
Yeah.
I don't trust so much the IMF because the IMF has its own investors or so, or people that they're looking to protect. Mm-hmm. Not just the IMF, the World Bank, because the World Bank take all those loans, they put them into investment securities and they sell it on Wall Street. Mm-hmm. So I don't buy into that because they're not doing it from a kind heart perspective. So we should stop relying on aid and start trying to find ways to raise our capital and do things for ourselves. Yeah. And that is the biggest challenge that we find today because people are just not creative, or they just haven't worked in that space. They just haven't done this kind of work to understand what needs to be done to make the change, right? So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but I wouldn't put too much, just my opinion. I'll swing it over to Alex. I don't put too much faith in foreign aid because it tends to make people lazy.
Yeah. No, I will say this quickly and I'll let Alex come in. So the reason why I point that out is not to rely on it, but it's resources that we can leverage, not to and the reason why I know this because I sit on our climate committee at the bank to help companies transition into to the net zero, the Paris Agreement, which required that every company should be at net zero by 2050, and countries should be on board with that as well. So that's how I'm privy to this information, that of the resources that is out there that countries can tap into if they want to, but it's not to rely on it, but it's just to say, hey, there are resources out there. If you're well-intentioned to say, I want to do something, you can put up your own money and go and, tap into those resources as well, and it'll help you get
and
to
the issue. The issue, Brother Gabriel, is not a lack of money. You're right. There's a lot of money out there. Go to the USAID Development Experience Clearinghouse, the DEC website, and you can see all of the monies that go out from the U.S. But then it still hasn't changed anything. Yeah. So it makes you wonder, maybe we need to do something a little bit different because all this money, and you saw it. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I posted that in the first 3 years under the WEI administration, he received far more money than the first 3 years of Madam Sirleaf's administration. I didn't make it up. It's on the U.S. Foreign Assistance website. But all that money that Matters Relief received, this current administration received, by 2020, the end of 2020, 2021, the World Bank reported that the number of people that became poorer has increased.
Yeah.
And you need the economy to grow to create jobs, but it depends on the type of growth. If it's just growth in your extractive sectors, in your exports, then that's not quality growth, right? So the quality growth has to also be internal in terms of your agriculture sector creating jobs.
Yeah.
But in 36 months, this economy never grew. So things just got worse, and that's why the people are suffering today. But again, don't put your faith in Liberians. They may end up voting this administration back to power, which I don't believe is going to happen, but you never know.
Yeah. Alex, yes, Alex.
Yeah, so Larry, I wanted you to, comment on this.
It can take me 10 seconds to prove what I said was right, because he's saying, it's all semantics. He's saying the country in his heart. He didn't say he has the country at heart. Tell you what, it will take me 2 seconds. I can prove that he said he has the country at heart. So let's do this.
I think this guy is a joke. He actually posted that on there too.
Okay. I think it was a cliche.
Oh, he's saying it in jest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
No. I think it was
okay.
It was,
because he did say, he has the country. He has the country in his heart, but he's really enjoying him. I'm telling you, darling, the man is balling. The man is flying a Dassault Falcon jet. You've seen the wood grain. The man is living his best life on the backs of the poor people in Liberia, and he does have the country in his heart or at heart. Either way, the country is.
So there are two things I wanted to flag. I wanted for us to go to in terms of Christmas, but it has
go ahead.
I think it has a ripple. The one is a smaller part, which is this whole thing of dishing out, hand out and food and small money during the Christmas time to different people. And that's one side of it. But the bigger picture thing is, I was looking at Ghana. I read, gentlemen, I'm sorry I always mention Ghana because I live in Ghana, live and work in Ghana for some time. But I always try to use Ghana as a yardstick. But the issue about the year of the return, right?
Yeah.
And I read something. There was a memo from the Minister of Transport of Ghana that stated that basically he was, sending a memo to the transport as a transport minister to the airline agencies and stuff like that, that they should comply with the government's order that Ghana is now giving. It's not actually requiring people to have visa before coming, but it will give visa on arrival during this festive season.
Yeah,
as sort of a follow up to the year of the return, and so they're kind of doing this thing every year during the festive season to not require people to go through the vigor of trying to get visas before coming, but they can get to the country and get visa. I think that is a deliberate attempt by the government to continue to attract people from the diaspora to Ghana, because especially during this festive season, now that they're not doing the festivity of the year of the return, but they are building on that success they made to kind of attract more people in their country during the festive season. As a means, of course, I know they have a means of, they have their own economic issues going on right now that they're trying to get out of. But I'm just looking at the economic of Christmas. So they're trying to, attract more people into the country during the festive season to bring money, to spend money, right, to infuse money into the economy. And I was on video on a video call last night with somebody in Ghana that they were having fun. Somebody from diaspora in Ghana, they were having fun at the center, and this place was back. It was like Afro-Caribbean kind of situation. All these different people from different places has converged into the country during the festive season. So it gives me, it makes me wonder this whole bicentennial stuff that we're doing, how are we, how are we capitalizing on that and in terms of economic growth? Recently, we were supposed to host the Lib Fest thing, but because of the changes in venue and the changes in date, we could not host that. But again, when I compare that with the bigger picture, it's more like we're having the country coke festive activity, which is supposed to be a build up from the bicentennial.
Yeah.
But that is more internal. It's not purposeful to attract more people from the diaspora. Yeah, every year Liberians go home, and that's our home. So we go home during the Christmas season. That's why people are termed as Decembrists, which is an annual thing. The same way people from Liberia too, who have some roots in the U.S., they also come on this side to come to see their families and friends. So people from Liberia who are on this side will go there. It's a normal thing every year. But how is the government deliberate to build on this whole bicentennial thing, especially during the festive season, which plays into the economic of Christmas?
Let me comment on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you guys should just remember the Africa US
The
summit,
U.S. Africa Summit, yeah.
right? The president was just here. Did you guys know he never really spoke to the diaspora here to say, hey, you guys need to go back home to invest home, right? According to a source, he spoke about his childhood, a story that happened in his childhood, right? Imagine a sitting president coming to a U.S. African summit. You can take that summit for what it is and translate it to you speaking, and take that same message to your diaspora. Yeah, the people here, people in the diaspora. This is in D.C., where there's a lot of Liberians, right? That never happened. From inside source, which is very credible, there was only 30 people at that town hall that he hosted, right? That is one thing. The other part with Ghana is very intentional with what she's doing. Like, this is not just a yearly, like, we just want to attract people in December. That memo you're talking about is they're planning it up to 2030. That's their plan,
Yeah, they have,
right?
yeah.
It's for 2030. They want to make Ghana the destination for diaspora people going back home. They're already the leader in that, right? So they want to continue on that trend and make it the destination for diaspora leaving here and going to Africa. They're already in leader in that. Now, you talk about the debt problem in Ghana, the economic challenge. They do have economic challenges in Ghana, where right now they're 80% debt to GDP. It could go up to 100%, right? That is because all the money that they've been getting from the IMF, they've been investing in infrastructure. They are taking on grandiose projects, infrastructure projects, that when those things come online, they're going to be paying off, right? So, in as much as that is a problem right now with their debt problem, I think once those projects start coming online, it will feed into their whole objectives of this diaspora plan that they have for 2030. So, but we can look at that as well. This is why I love competition. Competition is great. It's not healthy competition. We see what Ghana is doing we see what Ghana is doing. We can do the same thing too. We can do the same thing. The president had the opportunity. As I said, you can be horrible as horrible can be, but you always have nuggets of opportunity that you can capitalize on. This U.S. summit, where he was out of the country for 48 days and he came to the U.S., he could have capitalized on it. If I were him, I would have done at least 5 states, key states that have good Liberian population, and do town halls there and appeal to the diaspora people to come invest back home. But none of that ever happened. The only people he talked to was 30 citizens in DC, and it was poorly planned. This is from inside source information. So that tells you to what Larry was saying. This guy, it's just a nonchalant. The entire administration. because you have opportunities, golden opportunities. This was one of them, right? So I will leave it on that note.
Look, here's the deal. And I like what Alex said. I like what you just mentioned as well, Gabriel. Um, the president had a huge opportunity when he came over here to the US to meet the diaspora. Ghana is succeeding pretty much in what they're doing because they have a policy built around that. So
Yep.
Liberia has done well in terms of with remittances. The remittances to Liberia has fallen dramatically. But a lot of the remittances that go to Liberia, they're never used for investment purposes, right? A lot of the remittances that go, they are consumed immediately.
Mhm.
And if you're just using the remittances just for consumption, then you're really not changing anything.
Mhm.
What the government could have done and what they'll probably start running with it. They can set up something in the diaspora here in the US as well as in the UK and over in Asia that is run by one central agency, a really small group, maybe like 3 to 5 people. You call it a Liberian Investment Promotion Agency,
Mm.
LAPA for short, right? So you set up the Liberian Investment Promotion Agency, and it's meant to promote investments in Liberia. But you see, people are not going to invest in a country where you don't have very good rule of law.
Mhm.
Because if I go to the commercial court and I cannot get justice, then why would I want to put my money in the country? If I put my money in the bank and I can come back the next day and get it to go do my business, then why would I want to put my money in the country? So you see, it's interrelated. You
Yeah.
set up this investment promotion agency. That key thing is to promote investments in Liberia. Then you have something tangible to show to people. These are opportunities to invest. You make the opportunity, the ability to register your company transparent, automated, and can be done in under 48 hours. Easy. It got to be not you come to some window, you got to give somebody $50. And so that is not a transparent system and it creates issues for corruption. In addition to that, you cannot have a minister that also has a business in the same sector that he or she manages. You can't have the education minister running a school because then they bend the law for their own benefit. It leads towards where you have a conflict of interest. You can't have the health minister having a hospital or a clinic because then it makes you wonder how can you possibly monitor or enforce the rule. You have your own interest in there. The agriculture minister cannot have a farm. In fact, here in the US, in 18 USC 280, USC, US Code, subsection 280, Title 18 of the US law, it is absolutely forbidden for any US government official to have an interest in a financial interest in a sector where he or she runs. In Liberia, I'm sure that law probably exists, but no one takes it serious. So if you have your investment promotion agency here in the US, and I would kind of do, let's set up a school, set up a technical training thing, or maybe set up a hospital, a clinic, or maybe start a farm, that means I have to compete with a minister. So it's all related, man. It's all related. You got to have the rule of law. At the same time, you got to be promoting your country. But when you come over here with the opportunity to appeal to the people in the diaspora, then you go and get some bootlickers to come and sit and listen to you that will be chanting and hooting and hollering when you use a big word. It goes to show that you're not a serious bunch. You know, they couldn't even get the mantra of hope for change or change for hope. They couldn't even get that straight. And then you wonder why nothing seems to have changed. It's a big joke. But I like, Darling saying the government is not able to attract Liberia. Yeah, absolutely. They cannot do it because they don't have a policy, an investment promotion agency like what I just suggested. They don't have a policy geared towards bringing people from the diaspora. If you're going to bring people from the diaspora, you need the rule of law. You don't have a strong rule of law. Look at the Ministry of Justice website. Who's that minister photo they still have on our website? The man that passed away years ago. You not hear me talk about it. It's still there. Musa Dean. The guy's an absolute joke. The country. Look, man, I'm telling you, there are ways. That's why I hope people pay attention. You are not poor by accident. It's an intentional act by people who are built into the system to make sure you remain poor because they are enjoying. They don't want to leave. You are not poor by accident. You shouldn't be poor. So change this, put them. I heard on the Focus on Liberia video, one guy said something that I said, you know, that he knows what needs to be done. One of the Zogos, you know, he wanted to be rehabilitated.
Mhm.
But the reason why you have economic growth, look at the factors that lead to economic growth, right? Land, capital, which is physical assets, cash and machinery and all that stuff, but also human capital as well, entrepreneurship, technology. We have the physical capital, but we don't have effective. The children and we have, you know, we have the manpower, but they are not very effective when it comes to using technology and things like that. So we need to change our investments and put more money into education. But I mean, it's a sad case. All of the resources we have, we don't have a clear policy. Bottom Kulon is right. The whole bicentennial thing is dead in water. They say it was a whole year long celebration. Where's the data to show how much the people benefited from the bicentennial? Where's the data to show that? Zilch. It's just word of mouth, you know. And I think you guys wanted to also talk about some of the comments made by the information minister. But let me swing it back to Alex.
No, I mean that's yeah, that should have been an S breakup, but we're moving forward. So Sam, you know, Sam Waller is making a point here. He said we should talk about the Liberian problem in terms of successive failures of multiple administration, not just the current one. Which
I disagree with that.
we do.
I absolutely disagree with that. We can only look historically to see and learn from our mistakes. But if we're using that to compare this administration, then we're just saying it's okay for this administration to be an absolute failure simply because the previous administration prior to that did it. That's why I totally disagree with what Sam Wolo is saying. I think we use this administration as an opportunity to say, look, we don't need this nonsense again. Let's change from this and go forward. You know, look at what Darling Wildwood is saying. Health minister has private clinics. That's nonsense. You can't do that.
I heard about that too. The so what happens? The person who oversees the JFK, they have a private clinic. So when people go to JFK, they refer them to their clinic. You know, they refer them to a clinic. So, but in addition to Sam Wallow, I think what he's trying to say is that the failure is not just everything just didn't happen in this administration, you know, which I do agree with, but that does not give him the excuse to not do well than the previous administration, right? So what is happening right now, the level of failure that is in this current administration, they make the previous administration look like saints, right? Even though these guys were highly corrupt as well, you know, what we call clean clothes rogues, right? Those were they stole, they were corrupt, but they were technical about it. But these guys, they do it in plain sight, right? So to go to what Sam Waller is saying is to look at even the Charles Taylor's time, right? The Ellen time. This is what I would say. We had opportunity right after that war ended in 2003 when that administration came in 2006. Ellen, I'm sorry to say, and everybody in our administration had the biggest opportunity to set the trajectory on which this country would have propelled into a middle income state. They had everything going for them. Your debt is canceled. You're giving a fresh start. You know, you have some of the best technical people, you know, in every department. But you take those people from there and put them in Liberia, all of them within the first year, corruption started happening. Right. The same thing happened with this administration here. There were people that were quality few nuggets within the current administration. You know, until everything started falling apart, you see all these bogus deal that never went through and everything else. That's when people started leaving. Those people started leaving the administration. And that's when those other guys just became emboldened and stepped up to the point they make the previous administration look as if these guys were saint, right? As if these guys were saint. But the previous administration were corrupt as well, highly corrupt, right? But this level of corruption that we've seen here is just bullseye. I can see you, Larry, walking by, and I'm stealing on somebody's table with no regard whether you're looking at me doing that or not. You know, that's the level of audacity these people have, and I think that's what Sam is speaking to. But that is not an excuse, to say these guys, current administration, cannot look at what happened in the previous administration and say these people fail. This is what we promised these people, and this is how we're going to deliver it. But
Before I
that's
swing it
my
to
2 cents.
Alex, real quick, Alex, what Sam is mentioning, here's why I said, Sam, I disagree with what you're saying. We always have to look at the current administration, because if you don't look at the current administration, where do you stop when you start going backwards? Do you stop at Ellen's administration that was highly corrupt? Where the former Justice Minister Christiana Todd said she's going to resign because what good is a Justice Minister who cannot investigate the president's son?
Mhm.
Do you go back and start looking at Charles Taylor with all of the atrocities, or do you go all the way back to what he names the President King,
Before
who
the
had
war.
one of the most corrupt elections in the history? Or do you go
Of
back
elections,
now to looking at when the Congo people landed on the shores of Liberia and immediately started doing to the native people what was done to them as slaves here in the U.S.?
Mhm.
Do you go back to Governor Monroe before he became president in the U.S., where he saw that, hey, when the black slaves in Virginia rioted in Virginia when he was governor, he decided, look, we need to form this ACS to try to get slaves out of the U.S. and send them somewhere in Africa? I mean, you will keep going back. You have to always stop at the current administration. Otherwise, you will keep passing the blame and you will never know how to make the change going forward. That's the only reason why I said we can't keep looking 2 administrations back. You have to look at the current administration that came in on the wings of change. That was my only argument, Sam. Where do you stop? Which administration you want to stop on?
So Larry is saying that let the dead bury the past, right?
Look at the current. The current is where it's happening right now. You have a choice between the current and the future. So where do you stop? You want to go to Charles Taylor? I don't know. That's why I said it's illogical.
So I try to understand Sam Weller's comment that the problems we are having in Liberia is is mounting because we've had failed administration, failed leadership from year in, year out. But you know what? Other countries too had failed leadership year in, year out. Again, I'll go back to my favorite Ghana. When they overthrew Nkrumah and successive coup, military leadership, but it took one guy called Jerry Rawlings to change the trajectory of the country. Now, doesn't mean that another set of administration will kind of start to do bad things. They'll start to do things that, like, the Nana Akufo-Addo administration, with all the struggles that Ghana is going through right now. There's a background information beyond all of that, but different story, different day. But you go back to the Philippines, you go back to China. All these when Tottenham were in power, Baghdad was in power. All these countries, we were better than these countries. But these countries, like the Asian countries, the China, the Philippines, the Hong Kong, all these countries have grown up, right? But what is happening to us? We continue to go back and go back. So it has to start from somewhere. Okay, my Ellen started on a good footing, like I always say. She started on a very, very good footing for her first 4 or 5 years. But then after that, things started plummeting downwards. So we have to start from somewhere. We cannot continue to be submerged into, oh, Barclay didn't do it correct. Oh, Tubman didn't do it correct. Okay, so then we justify that the other person is also treading on the same path, because that's what Liberia is. Is that what we're going for? That every leader that can, all right. So since JJ Robert didn't do it correct, we can't blame the other man. He will do it. And then the next leader come, he will do it. No, we got to start from somewhere, and we can begin from somewhere. And after the war, yes, and after Judy Bryan interim time when Ellen took over, yes, I was there. She changed the country for the first few years. I saw leadership. I saw leadership face to face. I sat down on the leadership table and I saw how leadership works. I saw how to fix country is. And we roll off our sleeve to fix our country. But boom, at a certain point, it's just switch. and that, and everything just starts falling down. So it takes a person to pick it up again to sustain the upward growth. And not making justification because our problem is in multiple, successive failures of multiple administrations. So therefore, we should resign into anybody kind of the high level looking. No, then that's where I disagree with Sam. Well, I agree with him that the problem is mounting from administration because of failed administration to administration. But I disagree that there has to be a point where we got to start and we got to sustain the development over the number of years going into the future. Somebody got to start it from somewhere. So that's why I hate these excuses. During the other person administration, it didn't happen during the other person administration, so that means that it doesn't happen. No, we got to develop our country and going forward.
So we'll talk about Darling comment, but I want to touch real quick so I don't keep beating this horse with what Sam also mentioned. He said Nigeria is still collecting on stolen money from former dictator who died in office in 1996. So there's two things, you're talking about the problems, and then you're also talking about the opportunities. So I was commenting on the problems, but the opportunity for asset recovery, Sam, trust me on this. In fact, when the whole asset recovery team came to the U.S., the Arthur Johnson, the Lafayette Good, Serena Cephas, I took those guys then to one of the largest law firms here in the U.S. The office is right on Broadway in New York City. I took them there. Me and my other business partner, we set up an arrangement for them to meet. This law firm does asset recovery. One of the partners in the law firm, a former federal prosecutor who works in this law firm, they do asset recovery, and they were going to do a global asset recovery covering the Cayman Islands, the UK, Africa, and all of that. In fact, we arranged for this lawyer to fly to Liberia. He flew to Liberia. Remember the whole asset recovery thing with Arthur Johnson, all these guys then?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a whole lot on this whole.
I remember.
There's a whole lot saying on this asset.
To help.
Yeah, you don't know the inside deal. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about Sani Abacha. That whole Sani Abacha thing, it was all part of the investigation that we had looked and said, okay, Liberia can do the same thing, because the money that Sani Abacha stole, billions, was actually planted in an island nation called Jersey. I know someone mentioned one time on my post that it was New Jersey. It's not New Jersey. It's an island nation of Jersey. And the U.S. cut a deal with Nigeria. The money going to Nigeria was held up because the U.S. wanted to make sure that it didn't go to Nigeria and get stolen again. So when the U.S. FBI worked with the Nigerian government, they signed an agreement where the money will go to specific projects. So it's going to road constructions and some other important projects. So, Sam, no argument from me in terms of the asset recovery. We can go back as far as possible for the asset recovery. Go back all the way to Tubman, to Tolbert for asset recovery. But we can't go back in terms of policies to look for somebody to blame for the failures that's happening right now. That's my only point. So this is something, Sam, that I'm a little bit more knowledgeable about than you may think. I may not get into some of the underlying work that I do, but I'm a little bit more knowledgeable on some of these things because I've been trying to help this government as well. But the question that Darling mentioned, where do we go from here? We spend so much time discussing the problems. Well, the first thing we have to do, Darling, in my suggestion, we got to look at how you bring people in based on meritocracy. You have so many people working, and I'm not a government person. Don't expect me to see me working in a government. That's not my thing, right? You have to bring people in based on meritocracy. You have to look, again, the reason why Liberia is struggling is because we don't have an efficient and effective government. And I know my man Martin Coley posted something on that a while ago. The government is not very efficient and effective. We need to put money into education. Oh my goodness. C-Squared right now is working with USAID and Google to kind of boost the internet around Monrovia. That's so important. But we need to put a lot of money in education. If I was making recommendations to the government, this government is too late for them now, right? But I will put so much money into education, so much money into food production. Food production is important because you need people strong and healthy to work to boost economic growth. So that's the way you go forward. But let me swing it over to my man Gabriel, because I know he wanted to add a few things to that. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
All right, I hope you guys can hear me now.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah, as I said, I brought that up because I think in as much that, Christmas canceled in Liberia and it's been for the last, probably we can say the last 3, 4, 5 years, or it's been like this on this descending cancellation. Um, it's it's one thing that we talk about it, but to also look to see how does this get resolved? How do we go to like for me it's not, and you might say after you've been in this level of failure for a long time, you kind of settle for the minimum. For me, I don't think it requires a lot. It's just I think as Larry alluded to some of that, just put the fundamentals in place. Just put the right people in place. Put the right people in place. Build a system and let the system run things. As opposed to just, you know, everybody is party aligning. If you're not with this party, I can't talk to you. If you're not supporting this party, I can't talk to you. Um, we had a show on one of the radio stations in Liberia yesterday, and it was uh, Alex Jones and I were on it. Right? I don't agree with Alex from a political ideology standpoint. He's running for president. Um, he's running for president. We don't support the same candidate. But there's one thing when it comes to, you know, Liberia that we do agree on,
Well,
which is
Alex Jones, Chuchu Jones,
Alex Chuchu Jones.
he's running for
Yeah,
president
yeah. He is
of
running for president.
Liberia.
Yeah.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
yeah. You didn't. If you weren't aware that, so if you need a candidate to support, um, so yeah, we don't agree on those things from a political ideology standpoint. But there's one thing we do agree on, which is in terms of to build an effective economy in Liberia, you need a functioning banking system, you need a functioning financial system, right? And he and I were on there, we're talking about those things, right? I don't agree with this guy. The reason why I say this, that's the level of understanding we have to come to in Liberia. If we want to have a fighting chance for that country, you know, that's the level of understanding we have to come to. Like if I know I'm in a place I'm not doing a good job, and you guys are people, you should be able to say, hey, this guy, in as much that we know him, he's not doing a good job. And to be able to blatantly tell me that, or say, hey, I don't think you're doing a good job. We have somebody else who can do a better job, you know, regardless of my affiliation with you or my, party ideology, whether we share the same political ideology or not, we are unable to get to that level. This is why when one administration comes in, they bring their cohorts of people. When they leave, they steal. And they've seen people that steal, they will now come and start defending those same people that left power. This is the kind of system we have in Liberia. So in order to answer this guy's question, Darlene's question, where do we go from here? We need systems in Liberia that people will follow. You know, people, you can take a good person and put them in a corrupt system, the system will always win, right? Unless you build a system that is functioning at the bare minimum and you start putting key people in there, bringing in some people, that's the only time it will work. But we cannot have a failed system, a corrupt level of corruption that we have, impunity, whether you want to talk about people that started the war, that pay for it, those that cause harm to other people, and you say you want to build a system around that. It just cannot happen. Like we have to build a system that is accountable, that hold people accountable, that punish people. Even if it's my father that come in, if I'm in power, my father come in and steal money, I should be able to say, hey, I hope he gets a good lawyer. Do what you will. Let him bear the full consequences. If you find him guilty, let him bear the full consequences of the law. That level that level of accountability is what we need. We need systems that work, and individual who put their interests above the country, who put the country's interests above themselves and their political ideology. I think that's where we go from here.
Yeah, but so I mean, just to look at it, the Darlink thing. Yes, he's the question he put, gentlemen. Where do we go from here? It's a good question. All right. And then also I think Riverside Pro was trying to make a comment towards what we were saying about Sam Wallow's question, and Sam Wallow kind of like made an additional comment about pointing to me that was not what he was trying to say. So so it is all about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this and I will say it again. Liberia does not lack system. Of course, system must be built upon. Liberia does not lack laws, the legal and regulatory framework. Of course, they have to be built on. And that's where I look at Riverside's Pro question. Yes, even the constitution of a country is subject to amendment. The constitution of a country that was made in 19 wherever is subject to correction. So yes, in that context, you can go back to history. Okay, you can go back to history in terms of certain things. But what I was trying to say is, Riverside Pro, is that when we continue to say, rationalize, because John Brown in the past or Charlie King did not do it correctly, or he did it this way, so it is okay for somebody else who is leading today to do it, then that's where the difference is. But we can go back into history to clean up some of the bylaws or BAD laws that we had, or some of the system that are now working, that people think that, this is how we've been doing this in Todd Montano, this is how we've been, no, it needs to change. Yes, you can go back and do that. But to rationalize that doing wrong, impunity and stuff because it happened in previous administration, so it should happen in, that's what I was talking about. But so to answer Darlene's question is, I always say that because Liberia, yes, they have to be improved upon based on changes in the environment. But it starts with leadership. It starts with good governance. Because it's the people, it's the leader who will set the tone, who will say, hey, if you're my friend, if you do something wrong, I will punish you according to the law. And I will stand by that. So that other people can know, once you start having these kind of things in the country, once you start making sure that the rule of law works, once you start making sure that even ordinary police not just seen in plain view collecting $5. And if somebody does something, the person is gone scot-free, and we try to defend the person, you have to start from leadership. That's where we start from. We can do all this talking. We can have all the systems in place. We can do all the reforms. If one other government comes in, like, for example, during Ellen administration, during her first 4-5 years, all the reforms, all the system that was put in place. When we got ready, 5 years after, 6 years, 7 years going down the line, the human being started doing the wrong things. Put the laws and all the integrated institutions that we established, we start them in the back. We did not give them the funding that were needed. We did not give them the support that were needed. And we started bypassing the PPCC process. It's a human being. But it takes one person, the leadership, who will say, hey, stop here. This is a new day. And if you do X, if it's worrying you to go to the law, you go to the law. And that's where we start from. Until then, we'll talk and talk and talk. The system in Liberia is there. Of course, it needs to be built upon. It is there. But if we don't have the leadership who is the leader who will set the tune at the top, and not being openly corrupt or openly seen as encouraging impunity, and not having a good governance in place, not observing the rule of law, and not ensuring that integrated organizations work properly and do what they're supposed to do, not ensuring that law enforcement do what they're supposed to do, not ensuring that people do not drive on the incoming lane, ensure that they walk, they be on their own lane, and whether you run late, if you're running late, only people who have access, legal access to doing that when the traffic is stopped, can do that. But every Tom, Dick, and Harry will cross on Australia, and you have traffic and unnecessary traffic in the city, and nobody talks, and the police that supposed to do their job, they don't do their job because somebody at the top is not talking, it's not ringing the tune down. Then of course Rivers, Darling, then we're not going anywhere, but we will continue to talk for the sake of our country. You mute.
The thing just recognized it. Thanks, man. So 2 things real quick on what River Says Pro is talking and what Darling is talking about. So River Says Pro, I don't disagree with you, but you are looking at social injustices, right? We're looking at economic growth and economic issues in Liberia. So the social injustice, America is trying to correct that because it's been in existence for a long time, the social injustice. But River Says, when was the last time you heard American president come in and start comparing their policies to Ronald Reagan or to George Bush? When was the last time you heard the British start comparing the issues they're having today to what Tony Blair did, or the Russians start talking about Gorbachev? They don't go that far back when it comes to the economic policies. This administration should have focused on, and this goes to what I think Darling is saying. Ellen Johnson should at least single-handedly legalize corruption in Monrovia. I don't disagree with you, Darling. But what should this administration have done? Shouldn't they have audited that government and then prosecute people for the corrupt behavior in that government, which is what Nigeria is doing, going all the way back to Sani Abacha, looking at the economic injustices? That's what I'm referring to. The social injustices in Liberia, it goes way back. I mean, it goes all the way back to the whole concept of the formation. I mean, I don't know how you have found a country that already had inhabitants in there, this whole, finding Liberia thing, but that's another conversation. You and I can get into that conversation. We can go on for a long time. How do you find a place that already had inhabitants? The same way how the British took all of their criminals and sent them over to Australia, ignoring the indigenous people in there and said, oh, they founded Australia. But that's another story, bro. Look, the problem is when a new administration comes in, they have a mandate to audit the previous administration. I think government was absolutely corrupt. Look at Taiwan Gonglu. He's been saying it. That's why somebody don't like Taiwan Gonglu today, because he spoke the truth. That's why, madam, that's why I have total respect for Christiana Tai. I totally respect that woman because she had the courage to step up and say, look, listen, Fumba Salif is robbing people.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is, the Magnitsky Act came into play towards the end of December 2017. Otherwise, those guys would have been sanctioned. You see, the reason why McGill then got busted, they don't understand. You see, you have to look. I may not know the inner workings of the corruption in Liberia, but the way how the Americans work sometimes, I think I understand that better. When you're sitting there in Liberia talking to a white man or white woman across the table from you, don't think you're talking to a business person. That could be a CIA operative. Oh, yeah. You don't know. Mm-hmm. You think you're sitting out there cutting a deal. Why do you think these people that caught you red-handed stealing? You're talking to operatives. How you think? And you leave your phone sitting on the table. You don't know how they'll be able to tap your cell phone. You have no idea. So this government, number one priority was to audit the previous government. That's just my argument. But again, I don't want to keep digressing. The way forward, investing. The thing drives me crazy when they take all the money and put it into the executive branch, the budget. That's nonsense. Put the money in education, but don't have the education minister taking the money to put it in a private school. That place is just rotten. It's just absolute rotten, and you need strong leadership to come in. Leadership is the key.
Larry, what you were just saying, that's why I would just say earlier on about chasing potential investors away, and that has a bad omen for our country. Like, people with and these people, business people, talk a lot. The people come back and talk. They have their own networks. They badmouth us, and it creates this whole reputational damage for our country. So everybody else is afraid to go to our country. Then you imagine why a bicentennial will not tap on the bicentennial celebration. You imagine why people in a country like Ghana is benefiting from what we should have, something that we should have.
Alex, they don't understand. When foreign investors are looking for a place to invest, they do research. They check out the rule of law in the country. You start reading articles about how foreign investors got duped, got robbed. You got some people there passing off as business people who are robbing foreign investors. Even if you were to set up this thing that I suggested, the Liberia Investment Promotion Agency, it's going to be hard for you to get investors in there. Why? Because you have people in there who are robbing foreign investors. We're not the ones saying it. The articles are out there on different local dailies. The articles are out there. So, like my man Jimmy Eastman says, law and order, absolutely key, in breaking the poverty cycle. If we put down $100 to invest in something, if $90 of that gets stolen and no one gets prosecuted, what's the incentive to change bad behaviors? There's no incentive. It's the rule of law that makes Alex. I know Alex has a Maserati. He likes to drive fast in Dallas. But the reason why Alex doesn't drive 90 miles, the reason he doesn't drive 110 miles per hour in Dallas is because he's going to get arrested and thrown in jail.
Of course.
He can't tell the people that say, look, I'm a big man here in Dallas. No. I think a police officer, head of a police agency was recently, she had to resign because she got pulled over for speeding and she showed her badge. Her husband got pulled over. She showed her badge that she was the mayor or police chief or something, and they put down her case and she had to resign. Jimmy Eastman is right. It's law and order. You cannot grow your country if you don't have strong rule of law. You cannot grow your country if you don't have a strong education system, strong healthcare system, if you don't have access to capital. There's so many things that has to be done. But when you take people and put them in the finance ministry, who doesn't know the difference between fiscal policy and monetary policy? They're looking to the heavens to see if Jesus Christ can help them. You got a problem.
Well,
I wanted to come back quickly.
They are in luck because he's coming back tomorrow.
That's right. So even though Manna did his 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, but Jesus is risen. He will be back. He's the real deal.
He's coming back.
So let's come back to the Christmas topic now. I think we left the Christmas topic a little bit, but lastly, I think we should wind down now. But lastly, let me talk about the Christmas thing. This whole thing of giving our hand out and during Christmas time. I know that many countries, different administration, yes, even presidents gave out gifts and things like that to people. Some people gave pardon, make statements and pardon people who were incarcerated and things like that. But this whole thing about giving hand out in our country, we has become commonplace, especially with this statement from Bill Carson, which has become a normal thing that because our people are so vulnerable, they're so hungry that we prey on them and divide these handouts during this festive season. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is something that is cultural, is done. It comes along with the festivity. That's why we have to send all these monies to our families in Liberia for them to be able to buy their clothes, buy their food, and because they don't have a lot of income. So, but again, I don't know. How do you guys see this?
So I heard about the story, and I think that's why when she didn't show up, that's when those locals show up with cutlasses, right? And
yeah, I read the story. Yeah,
right, 2 people got killed. 2 of those locals got killed because they felt like the lady promised to be there to distribute rice. She never showed up. So they started, supposedly, this is the story that out there. They started, going in stores, and the people that had stores around there, they had to like close their stores, and mob justice kicked in, and they beat and killed 2 of the two of these locals, right? I think my take on it is that I don't know why she was doing it. Maybe this was something for herself. She was doing it out of her own interest, to say, hey, these people in my community, let me do that. I hope it wasn't politically motivated, but we see this all the time when, campaigns are approaching, people start distributing rice, and they use that to buy people votes. But I think for her, without knowing the the detail of the story. I think this was something probably she was trying to do from a personal standpoint. And these guys, and that tells you the bigger story that we're talking about here in terms of Christmas is canceled, right? Imagine you say you're gonna do something, you don't do it. Everybody expecting you to do it, you don't do it. They saw that as an opportunity to that they're supposed to be their Christmas. This was supposed somebody's supposed to make their Christmas. It didn't happen. They had to go another way to achieve that. And for them, I think the only way to do it was to start robbing people, terrorizing people with car licenses in their stores, and that's what led to those two guys being killed. But I don't think there was anything politically motivated. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was politically motivated. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. From what I know about everything in Liberia over a number of years, not just this administration. I mean, time to time, especially since 2005, everything, and there's a little political undertone. That's why you see, for example, sports. There have been a lot of politics play into sport because people used all these scenarios to sort of project themselves for possible political office, for gaining popularity, for possible political run, if I may. So people will come into football because football will make you sort of popular because everybody watch football. So people will do different things. So most of the things that we do it with political undertone. So if you go to the country, for example, from my personal experience, I go back to Liberia, I go back to my community in Nikuta, I'm doing stuff there, and people try to say, "Oh, the man want to run for representative." No, no. I like, no, that is not the reason I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I come from here, and now God has blessed me, and I've come back to the country. I must go back to my roots because I do the same thing in the US. I always stay in touch with people from my my local area. So so I do this thing, but people kind of try to read political. Everything is reading political meaning because nobody does these things just like that. Liberians don't normally believe that somebody will just come and start giving and leading projects in the community if they don't. And so everything is tuned into politics. So
Yeah.
that's beside the point. But it comes with the Christmas. People have to give out gifts. I have done it in Liberia. Besides what I do during the Christmas time, we'll go and buy special gifts for the children, only children, and children will be online and yes, they will get stuff. But again, most of the things that we do is a lot of the times there's a political undertone for these things. So it's unfortunate that what happened in Liberia, but because I know Fina always does these things on her personal things. I think before even she came to power, those are things that she used to do. So it's something that I think is cultural that she does. But again, it's just rather unfortunate that she did not show up, like you said, Gabriel, and these guys went and started harassing the. I read the story. They were having collectors and stuff like that. According to what I read, and that so the marketeers, the people who had the stores and their market stall, they also got enraged and decided to attack them as well, and leading to the alleged death of two other people. But again, Christmas giving is a Christmas giving. People give, but the way right now things are happening, the economic situation, there's no funding. Like we said earlier, market people are struggling. People don't have money to go to the market, so people will tend to look out for these things the more, for this handout the more. So, and again, that is what is happening. Unfortunate situation that's happening in our country.
Mm-hmm. Larry?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I not just one. Sometimes I give I used to go. It was not. It was for me. It was not a Christmas thing. It was a monthly thing. Every month I used to go give. I used to give back arrests. I used to buy some back arrests and take it to my local community and give to people.
Mm.
It was a monthly thing for me. So I will see what Finna is doing.
Now, do you think she may have been, uh, privy to the number of people that was showing up, the number of Zoko showing up, and the threat that could have been to her life? This is why she may have not shown up to do what she wanted to do. Because imagine those people showing up with cutlasses. You know, uh, there's a reason why they did. Maybe she was aware of that. That's why she didn't show up. So.
No, I think. Again, I think I wouldn't want to, because it's knowing her is something that I know she did before she came to public to the public space. So maybe she was busy and she didn't show up, because there's
Right.
one other video that showed that she didn't show up somewhere, and there was this. She was sort of meet some women, and there was this whole outrage, the women, and finally she came. It was a complete outrage. So dealing with these boys, this group of people that we call Zogo, who can be charged, So if you didn't show up, it probably was just unfortunate. Maybe she was busy doing something, or it was just unfortunate that. So I wouldn't put the blame on her squarely, but it was just unfortunate.
Okay. There's a question here. I don't know if you guys want to take a stab at it.
Yeah, but I think we gotta be winding down now.
Yeah, we should be. Yeah, you're right. This guy, I think it's Hamilton, Zili. He said, "Can anyone give me the current total dependency ratio of Liberia? Based on that, you can deduce why things are the way they are." I don't think that's with everything in Liberia. I don't think that's a data we have. We don't have that. We don't keep data on those things. But
I don't think even having that. Yeah, you're right. I don't think we have that data, but I don't even think that that data will help you determine why things are the way they are. I think what Emmanuel Jackson and some of the other people have said earlier, you have a culture of impunity. People will always do what is in their best interest when it comes to stealing or anything else. The only way to stop that from happening is to make sure you don't have a culture of impunity. People have to pay for the crimes they commit. And if you don't have the rule of law, people will always steal. People will always steal. People can get caught red-handed stealing in Liberia, and still nothing will come of it. Mm-hmm. It is because of that encourages people to continue doing what they're doing. It was kind of interesting that Ambassador McCarthy said, the government is probably the number one when it comes to stealing power, electricity theft. The government, they do not pay their fair share. Look at how many government officials are taking resources, drugs that Americans have sent over to the country and using it in their own little private hospital and clinics. It's because no one prosecute anyone for doing something like that. Look at how many times we talk about people at Listers and other agencies, other state-owned enterprises, for stealing anything from gasoline to stealing money that belongs to the census. No one gets prosecuted for that stuff. So it's that patronage, it's that impunity that is kind of giving those people who have no business of being in the position they're in the leeway to go ahead and continue doing what it is that they're doing. So you don't have the technocrats doing what needs to be done. You're not putting money into training and education like what Jimmy Eastman mentioned as well. But all you do is you have people who come in who number one goal is to steal. And then you're not able to prosecute them, or you're not willing to prosecute them. I think that's the reason why you have the situation you have in Liberia, the whole culture of impunity. How can you not have traffic out? But in fact, brothers, I think that's my last word. As always, it's fun hanging out with you guys here on Focus on Liberia Marketplace on Saturday. But I think that's the last word from me. I'll pass it over to you, Gabriel.
Yeah, thank you, Larry, for your last word, because we just have to close because we passed the 1:30 mark now. So again, Just to close up on what with the last topic of handout. So I think Darling made a good point here about, because we talk about sustainability, the issue of, and that was the intent of even bringing that topic up about. Yes, we understand that there's Christmas festivity, people do these things normally, but according to what he says here, she has the platform that she can use to benefit the Zogo community for sustainability, right? So capture the budget, they could actually be captured in a budget, or they can do a rehabilitation situation, which I think there is something for that. But again, because she's been doing this stuff for some time, and now that she has the position, she should really champion something that will be more sustainable through the budget, as Dalek is saying. Sam Wolo, we saw your comment, but that is about electricity. That is a different topic, different day. We're talking about the economics of Christmas. We're trying to pick up topics that are related, closely relating to what we are discussing, because if we do that, then we'll kind of digress and extend the time. So that's why we didn't pick up that comment. But people also, Gabriel, also commenting about trying to call in, wanting to call in. So we got to straighten this phone business up. All right.
Yeah, we don't. I don't have access to it, so
yeah, we got to straighten it up, because if people want to call,
yeah,
we have. So again, yes, we hear your comment about calling in. We will face that technical challenge that we're having about the calling in, and at the appropriate time we'll let you know. But again, gentlemen, thank you for the show.
Yeah.
Gabriel.
No, I think you guys. I don't have anything to. I don't have a closing statement. I just want to say, we won't be on tomorrow, so Merry Christmas to the entire 231 area called Liberia. Wherever you guys are, celebrating peace. I know it's not as fortunate as you may have wanted to be, but and there's plethora of reason why we are where we are, why your Christmas is going to turn out this way. But if everything else is gone, there's one thing you can keep alive, which is hope. Hope that there was one day we will have an administration that comes in, and even if everything is not going well, at least everyone will be doing okay. So from us to you, from me to you, Merry Christmas, and we will see you next Saturday. Thank you.
Yes,
guys.
Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy, like we say in the US, happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to everybody. We will
stay safe. Stay safe.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Those are our brothers and sisters in the US. Please stay safe from this weather. And then next Saturday, which is the 31st of December, they will be having a year in review. We'll be looking at all the hot economic, finance, and business topics during the course of the year that made news in Liberia. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be doing a freestyle. Hopefully we can have the phone. We'll be probably encouraging our viewers, our commenters. We'll be bringing them their comments on. And then also, hopefully we'll have the telephone number so people can call in. And we'll be wishing people New Year wishes. We'll be giving New Year wishes and stuff like that. So it'll be a show, maybe for 2 hours or so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's all you have from us today. Wherever you are, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as we always say, whether you're a part of the problems or on the sideline watching the problem happen, whether your Christmas is going well or your Christmas was canceled, we, as I said, keep hope alive, and we pray for you, and we pray that you and your family will have a good Christmas. See you here next Saturday. And
as for me, my Christmas canceled because everything I'm playing wrong. the attic
yeah, mine too is canceled. Mine is canceled.
I'm just here like
yeah, mine is canceled for
yeah. So
yeah.
Ciao.
So yeah, guys. As we always say, we're all Liberians, and see you next Saturday. Thank you for joining. Adios.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberia.